Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. On today's video, just another casual video, Macintosh focused. I have this Mac motherboard, which I think comes out of a Quadra 650 or Quadra 800. I don't know if this works, and I want to give this thing a little bit of a test. And I also have this eMachines NuBus video card, which I want to also test and see if I can figure out what that NuBus card is. This motherboard's really interesting to me because it's very similar in its shape and form factor to the motherboard that's in my Macintosh IIci, which I have here on the bench. I'm going to be using this for some testing. In fact, I think it uses the same power supply connector and, well, the form factor is very similar. Now, if this worked, it'd be great to put it into my IIci case because, well, it's got a 68040 processor and can be overclocked as well. And I think the overall subsystems on here are relatively fast. It does have built-in Ethernet, and I think the video subsystem is more capable than the one in the Mac IIci. It also uses 72-pin SIMs. Now, using this in a IIci case isn't really possible without extensive modifications to the case, and I think it's mainly because the port layout on the back is completely different. There is a later iteration of the IIci called the Quadra 700, which was basically the same case. It's just that it has a 68040 motherboard in it with only 2 slots, but it also has a processor direct slot just like this one. And the motherboard from the Quadra 700 and this motherboard apparently are completely interchangeable. And I think this is an upgrade from the one that's in the Quadra 700. But I don't have a Quadra 700. I don't have any machine that this motherboard even goes in. And like I said, I've never tested this. I don't even know if it works. It's lacking the processor. So in this video, that's what I want to do. I want to get this board tested, test the video card. I think I'm going to start by testing to make sure my IIci works and my capture setup works. That way, when we go to test this motherboard, this Wombat Centris or Quadra 650 motherboard, we know we're going to have good video output. Because you know me, I'm always getting stuck where I think something's broken and it's just because, capture device is not working. Okay, let's take a look at my Mac IIci. This is pretty much my favorite Macintosh 2 series machine. It's nice and compact, easy to work on. The top just comes off really easily. And what's going on inside of here? Well, this machine has a 68040 processor board that upgrades the internal CPU, which is just a 25 megahertz 68030. I think this thing might be 40 megahertz, and it has cache memory as well. So this is really speedy. And now this does only work in the Mac IIci, but this is where it lives because I love this machine and I like it to be upgraded. I also have 2 NuBus cards in here. So we have an Ethernet card. I can't quite see who makes this. Sonic Systems Incorporated. And I do have an extra video card in here as well. It looks like it's a Radius card based on the markings I see on the chips there. I do have to admit that I usually just use the video that's built in the motherboard because that's quite capable and pretty fast, although it only runs at 640 by 480. And these types of add-on cards, if they're good and you have the right drivers, then they support higher resolutions and acceleration and stuff like that. Also, you can see in the front, I have an old school SCSI to SD version, the 5.1. Those are pretty old, but I added that to this machine quite a long time ago. And then down there, we have RAM expansion happening. This thing has 8 30-pin slots. Looks like some of the SIM sockets are broken, which is why I have these little brackets on here to hold these SIMs into place, although they don't seem to be held on there very well. Those are 3D printed. Now, when it comes to this motherboard being compatible with that other one, from a shape standpoint, take a look at the 2 buttons here for interrupt and reset, and then the speaker connector as well. If you compare that to this motherboard, well, there's the reset button and the interrupt button, and then it actually has a speaker jack. It's just not populated. It totally is designed for going inside a case just like this. Now, one difference is that there is no built-in LED on this board, and the IIci motherboard underneath this drive cage, it does have an LED there, so you'd have to figure out how to get that hooked up. The power connector for the hard drive is exactly the same. The SCSI connector and the floppy connector is down there in the same spot. There's a hole right there for the screw that holds this in, and the way the power supply connects is exactly the same way. I'm pretty sure the slots in the motherboard that are designed to hold the motherboard down are exactly the same. You can see there's a plastic slot there and another one there. And let's see, where's this other one right there? That one actually doesn't seem to exist on the Macintosh IIci. And actually, I'm just noticing that the Mac IIci has this slot down there, and that doesn't exist on this motherboard. So clearly, it's not exactly a drop-in replacement. And I mean, the biggest problem, of course, is, yeah, the port layout is quite different. I mean, it's similar, but not exactly the same, because this has Ethernet, And well, that changes around the port layout quite a bit. Which if we tilt this up, this is where the Ethernet is, that's the video connector. And then this has a floppy drive connection on the Mac IIci. And when Apple added the Ethernet jack, they just decided to remove the external floppy drive connection entirely. And then they moved the video jack there from this position. In a way, it's too bad they didn't keep the exact same layout as the IIci and just put the Ethernet jack in the position of the floppy connector, and that would have allowed this to go into the case. I mean, obviously with some slight modifications to some of the plastic things on the case, but that would have been a really good upgrade path, because the other thing about this motherboard that the IIci does not support is this has this PDS slot that allows you to have a PowerPC upgrade. I'm not really into PowerPC stuff, but it is a nice upgrade path to have an official, I think it's an official Apple upgrade card, or maybe there's third-party cards, I can't remember. But either way, it is supported on this, and I don't think, at least, there's any PowerPC upgrades for this. But like I said, this accelerator that I happen to have in here is an excellent one. And you know what's so funny about this IIci? I made a video about this thing a long time ago, recapping it. The accelerator that was in here actually came with the machine. And I bought this entire computer from someone off Craigslist for like 10 bucks. And it was broken, and they found it in an attic. And it's a good number of years ago now. But they knew it didn't work. So I think they tried to turn it on, and it didn't actually work at all until I recapped it. But I was shocked when I brought it home and I opened it that it had this 68040 accelerator in here, because the accelerator alone was worth, well, I mean, I only paid 10 bucks for the computer, but the accelerator alone was worth a lot more than that, probably even more than the computer itself. Okay, so I have the power plugged into the Mac. Let's turn this on and see if the computer still turns on. I don't have the video connected yet, but I just want to hear the nice chime out of this. Here we go. Yes, sounds like it's working. Now I already have a video adapter connected up to the Mac, so I can just plug my VGA cable directly into it. One thing you have to keep in mind with the Mac IIci, at least, it uses sync on green. So you need to have a capture device or a monitor that supports that. So I'm using my Extron 300A, and this absolutely does support sync on green. Yep, there it is. Okay, let's turn this thing on. Now I gotta turn the power back on. Now we turn the computer on. One thing, by the way, is the caps leak really badly on Mac IIci's, and if you don't replace them or fix them, then the computer won't even turn on reliably. The power supply, you might think it has a power supply fault because you push the power button and maybe it doesn't stay on, or it doesn't even turn on, but that is very much the cap situation. The whole power on latching circuit for the power button, well, the caps kind of destroy all of that stuff in that area, and it keeps this from working. Now we're not seeing anything yet, but I think this is normal because this has, pretty sure it has 64 megs of RAM plus another 4, so 68 megs total. And the way I have this arranged, I have the 4 megabytes in one of the banks. I think it's whatever the rightmost slots are here. Those are used for the video circuitry, and it's better to, well, they have like worse performance for when you're running software out of them because of the video circuitry that's sharing bandwidth with them. But apparently the other SIM sockets aren't shared, so you get better performance out of those. And there we go. Okay, well, the capture device is acting up a little bit, but we have the system booting. It takes a while just to do the RAM check, and that's just normal for the Macintosh IIci. Let me try to fix this image situation. I'm not sure what's really going on with the 300A. It obviously doesn't really work that well with the built-in video on the Mac, but at least we could see that the system booted up to, what, system 7.1. Okay, and I plugged in a keyboard and a mouse, and we are booted up. And let's just check a few things. 68 megabytes of RAM on this Macintosh IIci. Awesome. Let's see if I can figure out how fast the processor is. Okay, so we're running in 68040 fast mode at the moment. And yeah, we have a Micromac Technology Carrera 040 in this machine right now. This allows us to kind of switch modes. You can also add games, so you can slow the system down when you run certain software, which is good because certain things don't really like running fast, or at least on this machine, they don't like running fast. So one thing I'd like to do on this machine is get my Bluesky hooked up to the external SCSI port. And I think I have a few things on here that I want to copy onto the Mac. And there's actually a few things I want to copy off the IIci onto this. I just need to make sure I don't have a conflict. So ID 1 and 2 is what's happening with the internal SCSI to SD. So I just configured the Bluesky for IDs 3, 4, and 5. And you gotta be kidding me, I can't plug this in because of the adapter that is in here. Maybe if I pull this apart, I think I can take this apart. Yeah, that's gonna work then. Yeah, without the case on there, that does work just. It's funny, I normally have this Mac IIci set up in my office upstairs so I can really play around with it. I like to have this Mac kind of ready to go. but it's actually been not on my desk upstairs for a while now because I have an Apple II set up. I kind of only have room for one machine at a time to be permanently set up, that is, because I got to change the monitor and stuff. So the Apple II's been on the bench for quite a while upstairs. But maybe it's time to kind of get back to this thing, because I really do like this Mac IIci, and it's in fantastic shape. It's a little bit dirty on the back, I just noticed, but ultimately this computer, it looks pretty mint, and I have fond memories of the Mac IIci, just because my father had one, I guess, and when I had an Apple II and I'd use this computer, it just felt so fast and capable, and the colors and all that stuff. Well, obviously, I ended up going with an Amiga, and then down a different path, PCs and stuff like that. But yeah, I really like this Mac. I just could never afford one, and of course now they're not expensive. Well, at least this one wasn't, and it was an easy fix, recapping it and everything. And yeah, it's great. Anyways, we should have all of our SCSI disks here in a second. Okay, couple things that are on the Bluesky here that I wanted to check out is Tattletech. I think this program is somewhat new and didn't even work. What happened there? It opened and closed. This is supposed to kind of give you all the info you need about your hardware. Launching the Tattletech will present you with General Helper report in the main window. Well, it didn't work. I wonder if this needs a newer version of the system. I'm running system 7.1 here. Maybe we should reboot into system 7.5.3. Yeah, unless this is like for much newer Macs. I was actually hoping to use this to figure out that eMachine's video card, what it is exactly. In fact, speaking of video cards, oops, that's not what I meant to launch. Is the video card that's in here even doing anything and working? So we go to monitors. I mean, it doesn't show it. This is just the internal video. It's kind of weird that this unmovable window is off the edge of the screen. Don't know what that's all about. Anyhow, that's this is as much you can get out of a Mac IIci. Built-in video, 256 colors, that's it. You can do 416, 256 colors, or grayscale, but that's it. And it's relatively fast, but it's not really accelerated. Like, it doesn't have blitter operations, stuff like that. It's the CPU doing everything. So using a faster video card can be advantageous. But a problem on the Mac is a lot of these video cards, like the one I have here and the one that's in this machine, the Radius card, well, you need to find the drivers, and a lot of the drivers are very difficult to find. I'm going to switch to 7.5.3. And because they're hard to find, it sometimes you just can't get them working properly. Like, they'll work if you plug the monitor into the output here. But the issue is that without the drivers, you don't always get all the capabilities, all the acceleration and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, with this eMachine card that I have here, that I want to see if it even does anything, I did a quick Google before starting this video, and someone else had the same exact card, and they were like, hey, can you help us, or help me figure out what this is? And no one really could answer. At least that was an MLK 68K forum post. Someone was like, just run this Tattletech program. Anyhow, 7.5.3, this OS is much newer, but it's pretty much the limit of what I'd ever want to use on a Mac like this. If you run the newer stuff, I think I can run possibly 8.x, some version of 8, but it starts to really slow down. In fact, I don't really like to use this version either, because it's a lot slower than the 7.1 that I was running. Feels like every time Apple had like a new OS, they added a whole bunch of new features, but then that put a load on these older machines. Okay, it works with 7.5 or 7.5.3. Cool. All right, let's see what we have here. We don't have IDE, yeah, we know that. Display manager is present. There's no Energy Star stuff on this, and no energy conservation, no FireWire, no infrared. These are all obvious things. Extended ISO ADB, yep. 68 megs of RAM. Virtual memory not in use. CPU can check parity? No, it says. And some versions of the Mac IIci do have parity checking. This one does not. It has no PCMCIA or PC card stuff. No PCI. Where's the new bus? That's what we want to see. Slot manager. New bus PDS is present, yes. Slot manager version 2, ROM-based. New sound manager present. Sound hardware is Apple Sound Chip. Can play and record sound together? No. 16-bit audio? No. Record in stereo? No. So here we go. This is what we want to see. Show us the info. Total physical PDS slots present, 0. What is the accelerator plugged into? I guess I mean, it is a PDS slot. So I just don't understand that one, but whatever. Okay, pseudo NuBus slot, I guess it's 0. That's the built-in Macintosh video. Board ID 31, Apple Computer. Even the Mac SE 30 has like a pseudo NuBus slot for its video hardware, if I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, CPU 68030, Mac IIci, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's another NuBus slot, Ethernet card, Sonic Systems. Okay, well, what? So that card that's in here, the video card, isn't even showing up at all. And that's not even the one I want to test. Okay. Now I'm wondering with the video card that's in here, maybe it's not showing up because nothing's plugged into it. Is that possible? Now you might have noticed I saved the CPU stuff. So 68040 at 32 megahertz. Okay, well that's how fast this ran. I wasn't sure if it was running at 40 or not. Now the bus speed of this computer is only 25 megahertz because that's the native CPU speed on this machine, which is why this other motherboard can run up to 33 megahertz or maybe even faster overclocked, and its bus speed is actually going to run at that faster speed. So you will have better performance overall compared to this motherboard with the accelerator. I don't know how much, but certainly some amount. Now this does have caching, and it's not showing that here. I mean, it says that it has 512 bytes of L1 cache. That's built in to the chip itself, but without a doubt, this accelerator card has a cache module installed on it. I just don't know why it's not showing up. Maybe it's not active. Also seems to indicate that it doesn't think it has a floating point unit. It doesn't have the built-in 68041, so I guess this is the version of the 68040 that is lacking that. Anyways, curious what this Snooper 2.0 is. Is this another program that does kind of hardware snooping? Nah, it seems to be more like a diagnostic program. Now, it does show the 2CI motherboard, or yeah, that is the 2CI motherboard. Why don't we try doing some of these benchmarks? I'm just kind of curious what these will result in. And if I get this other system working and we can get it running at 33 megahertz, then we can actually like run some of these tests and compare. So I'm just going to write down these results. Looking for a pen. Okay, so CPU benchmark ran in 8.9 seconds compared to a normal Mac IIci. That's 369% faster. Let's do a math benchmark, see if we have that floating point unit. It says no. So I guess we don't have a floating point unit. Maybe I took it off this card and put it on another card or another system. I can't really recall that. Okay, so I just wrote down these two numbers and let's do floating point. Okay, no FPU. So it ran at 40.3, which is 289% of a normal Mac IIci. And the final one is, let's run the video benchmark. And this took 13.5, which is still 202% faster than the normal internal video. All right, I think this is pretty good. I got what I needed out of this. What I want to do now is I'm going to switch the connection of the video to the video card that's in here. Let's see if that can even work at all. According to this adapter, by the way, 640 by 480, plus it supports up to 1024 by 768. Okay, so it's plugged into that card. Let's see if we have any video output at all. Now, the thing about these types of video cards on Macs is the NuBus interface, this is 32 bits wide, but I think it runs at 16 megahertz because that was the original speed on the original Macintosh II. Therefore, it can be a little bit of a bottleneck. On the other hand, if the card has a bunch of acceleration routines in the hardware, so it's doing like blit operations and stuff like that, then I think that will still make it a lot faster than the internal video. Maybe not just like pushing pixels directly to the card versus the internal video, like if you're trying to play a video, but for blitting operations from within the video memory, and that's scrolling and filling out boxes if you're drawing a window and stuff like that, that is going to be a lot faster. I have no idea if this card has those capabilities. I mean, we have these two eMachines chips, well, one and whatever that is. That is the RAM DAC. That just converts the video digital data to the analog. And then obviously we have a lot of video memory here. And this card has a little selector up here for selecting something. It could be a monitor type, who knows? This is the NuBus card that I connected to, and it's working now. So oddly enough, it like just didn't show up at all when I had nothing plugged into it, but now it's working. And we have the same weird video issue that we have hooked up to the built-in video as well, where it's like not scaling correctly. Now, weird is, okay, yeah, thank you for opening up all those windows. It doesn't even have more colors. I would expect more, but yeah, radius display 2. I don't think this is an accelerated card, so that means it's going to have worse performance than the internal video. I'm picking these different monitor types, thinking maybe it would fix the scaling, but that didn't seem to do anything. Okay, well, let's just quickly run Snooper, and we'll check out the video speed. It was 13.5 seconds before. I expect this to be worse. Probably quite a bit worse. Oh yeah, that scrolling looks way slower. Yeah, okay. So that was 21.2 seconds. 129 times or percent faster than the built-in video on a non-accelerated Macintosh IIci. So that kind of sucks. But the thing is, maybe there are drivers for this card that I'm missing, and without the drivers, we don't actually get that improved performance. But it's quite possible this card is just a dumb card that doesn't actually have any additional performance. So maybe Tattletech will tell us exactly what kind of card this Radius is, because that's what I was hoping to figure out with this card. Actually, it's kind of interesting because if we go to drivers, is there actually a driver for this video card? Because there should be one in the ROM. Oh, look at this. Radius PrecisionColor 8X. Well, there we go. That tells us what this card is. The fact that it says 8X kind of tells me that it's only an 8-bit card. It does not support a higher color bit depth than that. Okay, let's take a look at new bus slots now that the video card is connected in. I mean, we still have the built-in video, even though nothing's plugged into it. And there it is. PrecisionColor 8XJ, actually. Maybe that's somehow relevant. Okay, well, let's shut the system down, and I'm going to pop in that eMachines card, and we can see if it A, works, because also unknown, I have no idea if this card works. B, if it's any faster, and maybe it'll give me the model number of it, which I should write on it with a marker. I should do the same with the card that's in here as well. Okay, there's the card that was in the system. What does the ROM say on it? Oh, PrecisionColor 8XJ. Okay, but this card kind of sucks in that it doesn't appear to be accelerated at all. And I guess it doesn't have that much video memory. Certainly doesn't have as much as this card. 275s. I'm going to assume these are 4-bit wide, 256 kilobit, or K, that is. So basically 2 of these is 256K. So 512K. I don't know. That doesn't really make sense, actually, does it? That would be 1.5 megs of video memory. Not sure. Okay, I have the cable hooked up to the back. I'm going to leave the lid of the computer open so I can potentially fiddle with this thing right here if I need to change something to make the monitor work better. Okay, computer turns on. Good sign. Again, I have no idea where this card came from. I don't know if it works. I should get my marker and put a tick mark on this other Radius color, PrecisionColor, whatever card. Since this works, I don't even know why I had it in here. I just did. And I'm just going to write on the back here what this is. PrecisionColor 8XJ. This computer takes so long to boot. I always am concerned about it. Something's wrong. Oh, eMachines logo. But that looks totally screwed up there. Sorry, look away. It's flashing horribly bad. It's booting right now. I will tell you if you're averse to flashing when you can look back at the screen. Right now, do not look at the screen. It's flashing quite badly. The system is working, but yet we're getting this horrible, incredibly fast flashing. I don't know what is going on. Don't look, it's still flashing. So this card does support 24-bit color, but it's still flashing wildly, even in 24-bit mode. We are at 640 by 480, but that is so screwy, and I can't see anything now. Oh, it kind of comes and goes. It's really weird. Okay, so what I just did is I shut the system down. You can look back at the screen now. It's not flashing any longer. And there is this little setting. I switched it to 0. I think it was on D. I put it on 0 with the system off. I don't know if that's going to make a difference, but I guess we will find out shortly. I guess I could also remove my accelerator card just if there's some kind of conflict. Nah, that can't be. This has got to be a faulty card. I mean, maybe there's a bad connection or a ripped trace. Could be anything. This, for all I know, was found in a box of junk, you know, with no bag, no static bag or anything on it. So it's entirely possible that it's messed up. It's certainly a better video card than this PrecisionColor, though, just more capable. I think the only reason why I had this in there is in case I wanted to run 2 monitors, because, you know, Macintosh is back in this era. It could do multi-monitor perfectly. which is certainly a neat party trick or very early days. Okay, now it's still flashing. Okay, this card is just bad. This card is bad. Wait. Now it's not flashing? It flashed for a second on the splash screen, and now we have no more flashing. Oh, that's weird. It didn't even boot. Why didn't my SCSI SD boot? Oh, that's weird. I don't know. We are booted up off of the Bluesky. Okay, well, I'm actually kind of amazed that this can boot the Mac IIci, this whatever system this is, system 7.01. Okay. Well, interesting. Let's run Tattletech. Let's just get the exact number and model of this card. I mean, it's odd that it's now fully functional. It flashed a little bit when it first showed the eMachines logo, and the flashing went away. Part of me wonders now if this is a driver problem. Oh yeah, we can't run Tattletech now because it doesn't work on this older version of the system. Where's the internal SCSI SD here? Why did it just stop working? Okay, well anyways, we can show a little bit of info on what this card is at least. It says here it's a Futura SX. And since it's not flashing, you can now see that, yeah, it does support like these different modes. 256 colors, works fine. Definitely does not feel accelerated though, at all. I mean, I can try running Snooper. It's not apples to apples because we're running a different version of the system right now. Oh, look how slow that was really slow. Oh, you know what? We're not even using the accelerator right now. Yeah, because there's something that needs to load when the system boots for the accelerator to work, and you know, it's not working right now. So if we do video benchmarks, we can run this test here. So this is going to compare it to like a stock 2CI internal video. Yeah, this card sucks too. I don't know if this has acceleration that we just aren't getting because we don't have the drivers, but I can tell even compared to the built-in 2CI video, this is going to be slow. So drawing time was 30.5 seconds, 89% of the internal video, which makes sense. Remember how I said it was running at 16 megahertz versus 25? Of course, we're using, you know, non-accelerated machine right now. I'm super curious, like what happened to the other SCSI drives on the SCSI SD? Did they disappear? You know, this video was supposed to be about testing this on the motherboard. I haven't even gotten to it. No, they're there. So it was 1 and 2. Why aren't they mounted right now? That's weird. And I don't have SCSI probe on this system. So we're gonna restart and hopefully this comes back. I mean, I don't know, weird. Oh yeah, flashing for a sec. Oh no, the flashing's back. Are you freaking kidding me? Great. Yeah, please don't look at the screen if you don't like flashing. I'll say when it's fine to look again. Certainly pushing on the card, bending it, doesn't seem to do anything at all. Okay, you can look back at the screen now. I have turned off the computer with the horrible flashing video card. So this video card is obviously, well, faulty in some way. And it's weird that it kind of worked once. I just noticed it's got a small surface mount cap there. Is that leaking? Yeah, that looks like it leaked. So that cap's probably dead, but I can't imagine that really would make that much of a difference. It's just that single cap on this board. Almost certainly more likely, maybe we have a bad connection on these chips. I mean, it's weird it kind of worked once without actually having any kind of issue. But it's possible, well, I don't know. Yeah, this has got to be faulty. Let me just check to see if any of these pins are touching each other. Those look fine. I mean, we could have a bad connection still. Everything else looks okay. And same on this chip, we don't have any pins that are touching each other. You know, it's really funny with this. Like, couldn't they have just written Futura SX on here? Like, was that too difficult for them? It's got some scratches all over it. Look at this. So could have a bad trace, supposedly. It's just weird how it did work that one time. And then when I rebooted it, it wasn't working again. I mean, none of these look like it's bad enough of a scratch that that's going to break any of those traces. Okay, I did a quick Google for the Futura SX. That's the card that's flashing really badly. Oh, 1.5 megs of RAM. That's kind of what I thought, but that's actually what it's got. So yep, up to 24-bit, 6GB 480, but it does support these higher resolutions. It has a rotary switch for switching resolutions, which is kind of weird because I have it set to position Oh, 0. I guess 0 is not a real resolution. I suppose I could just try 3 real quick, and we'll just try it again, make sure that that wasn't just a problem with like it not liking the setting, because you know, it looks like it was some kind of a, I don't know, 16-inch monitor that it was trying to run at, but it was definitely running at 640 by 480 just now. But it says any VGA monitor should work on setting 3. Now it was on D originally, dual resolution 16-inch monitor. Interesting. Oh, look, acceleration software is incompatible with system software above 7.1. However, the card will work on OS 9 or up to OS 9. Well, so there is acceleration drivers for this that obviously we're not getting or taking advantage of, and it doesn't even work with the higher versions of the system, which was not an unusual problem because companies would make cards like this and then they would abandon them, not keep releasing drivers. But the built-in driver that's on the ROM here, obviously that works fine up to the OS 9, and that's because it's just using it as sort of a frame buffer where the CPU is pushing the pixels manually. All right, let me just quickly give this a test. I did write on the back, by the way, that this is a Futura SX. And I just had a thought. I'm going to try plugging this in. Well, first I'll try it on my capture device, but then I'll plug it into this LCD monitor I have sitting right here. It's a HP 17-inch monitor. This does support sync on green. I want to see if it flickers on that as well, because that'll sort of tell me for sure. Maybe it's a capture problem. Also, one thing is we saw flickering at the very beginning at the splash screen. It kind of tells us that it's not a driver problem. I mean, there's got to be a hardware problem on this, unless, you know, the setting that I had there on that switch was somehow causing the issue right here. I don't know. Now, the funny thing is, you know, that the article mentioned drivers. There's a good chance that I will not be able to find the drivers. I have really struggled in the past to be able to find the drivers for various cards like this. Okay, well, it's not flickering here. It's also not booting. It's not booting off my SCSI to SD. It's booting off the external Bluesky again, which is weird. Why does it keep doing this? And last time when it did this, when I restarted, it started flickering. So we'll try that. See what happens. The SCSI SD is working, and now I saw the light blink on it a second ago. No flicker. I mean, ignore that jitter. No, it's not booting. Why are you not booting off this thing? It's weird. Anyways, don't worry about that kind of flicker. I don't know, not flitter, jitter. Don't worry about the jitter that you were seeing there. That's just the scan converter. Not working very well. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's there. Why isn't it booting off of it? Why isn't it mounting it? I photocopy a SCSI probe, and I'm going to put this into the system folder so that way I can mount the other partitions. And then I'll be able to select it and boot it as well. Should be able to, but I don't think there's any more flickering. So this is a weird card that it has that strange idiosyncrasy that if that's not quite set to the right mode, it sort of freaks out. But proof is in the pudding. I mean, ignore that again. That's just the scan converter. It's freaking working. It's so strange. Okay, now we can run SCSI probe. Should be able to see the other drives. Awesome Bluesky, and I should be able to hit mount. And there they are. Why weren't they mounting before? I don't know. And we can start up on the 753, which is what's selected already. That was already selected. This thing has a battery in it. That's why it was remembering that. It's booting off the Bluesky again. I don't understand what's happening with this thing. So strange. I'm just going to unplug the Bluesky and just try again. I just want to see this card boot without flickering off system 7.5.3. That's all. I really have to thank Joe from Joe's Computer Museum for sending over these Blueskys. I cannot say how helpful both of them have been. No flicker. So that flicker really was like some weird symptom of it being forced to run in 640 by 480. I think because of the adapter I have plugged into the back with the VGA adapter. So it was forcing it, even though the switch was set to something else, and that was causing that flicker. Weird, very strange. I did a quick search for drivers for these old cards, and I found eMachine Video Card Futura 2 documentation, EtherTalk installer, and then these 2 accessory discs. These could well contain the drivers for this card. So it's probably beyond the scope of this video because this is a wild goose chase. I've kind of done this before. Like, this particular driver might only work with a certain system or only certain cards. And, there's not really good detail here as to what works with what. So I'll have to try this separately. And unfortunately on, the PC, these aren't viewable. These are Mac, disk format disks. At least the card does appear to be working just fine. I mean, it's really slow. I bet you it's in 24-bit mode right now. And that's pushing a lot of pixels. The mouse is not working very well. That's pushing a lot of pixels through, yeah, it is, through the bus. And the 16 megahertz bus, it's kind of slow. I mean, it's a lot faster. It's still going to be slow compared to the built-in video, slower. So that really shows you that new bus cards, if you have a fast computer like this, the 16 megahertz bottleneck of the new bus really hamstrings them. So unless you have the video drivers for all those 2D acceleration features that they can possibly work with, you're going to have bad performance. I think back in the day, people would just deal with the fact, I mean, look at how slow this is. Wow. If you put this into, say, 16 color mode, look how much faster the menus draw. Like, they're snappy feeling. Even 256 color with the built-in video, they feel pretty snappy. But you switch to millions and you're just pushing those pixels. I mean, look at that. It's sluggish. Anyhow, I'm glad to know that this card does work. So I'll just leave it in there, to be honest. What I would like to do now is I need to get this power supply out because I do want to test the other computer and I need this power supply to do it. How does this come out? I can never remember. I think you just have to wiggle this out. There we go. There's a little tab down there. You just have to push it with your finger first, and then this will slide out. And you can see that the connection for the power supply is the same as that other motherboard. All right, so this motherboard, this is known as the Wombat motherboard, as far as I'm aware. And like I said, it's Quadra 650 or Quadra 800 or Centris 650. A couple different variants. They run at different clock speeds. The 6840 processor goes right there. Now, the crystal for the CPU is that one. And it is clock doubled. So there are two variants of this. It's apparently a 25 megahertz variant. So I guess this is like 12.5. And then there's also a 33 megahertz variant, which this one must be. So 16.666. So we're going to run at 33.333. Now, I don't have a whole lot of 6840s in stock, but I have these two. So that's a 20 megahertz variant. But then I do have a 33 megahertz variant. And I happen to have this one, which has a glued on heatsink. I don't know if I ever tried to take this off, but it does. Well, I wrote on here what it is, 33 megahertz. I don't know if this one has an FPU or not. So I suppose if this motherboard does work, then I should probably plug that one in and we can test, because both of these are LC versions and LCs do not have the FPU, which is the same one that's on my accelerator. And to be honest, if that other one with the fan on it is the version with the math coprocessor, I will rather put this on my 2CI, keep it on there. Now this machine is interesting because it's got onboard video RAM. This has 512K of onboard video RAM, but you have two more slots for an extra 512K. I don't have these modules, but with these modules, you can go up to at least thousands of colors. So it's like 65,000 colors, 16-bit mode. I don't know if it does 24-bit mode. I think you can also go to higher resolutions when you add the extra RAM. Without these RAM sims, I think you could do maybe 800 by 600, 256 colors, something like that. And then this also has some built-in memory on the board. I mean, it's such a strange thing that Apple would even do that. Why do that? There are memory sockets right there. Why put onboard memory? It seems silly. Anyways, this can come with either 4 or 8 megabytes of onboard RAM, and then you can add up to 128 megabytes as well. So same as the Mac 2CI, which that's its max capacity. But if you have 8 megabytes, it's 8 plus 128, so whatever that, 132. These chips are, you can see 44, 1000. So 2 of these is 1 megabyte. So that's 2 megs, 4 megs, 8 megabytes total. So this has 8 megs total, which tells us this is the kind of quote unquote better motherboard. But I guess the fact that it has a 33 megahertz crystal or 16 megahertz to run at 33 megahertz means this is like the higher end one. This has this Sonic chip, which I think is the Ethernet. That's the SCSI controller there, that NCR. That's the RAM DAC for the video output. Video memory, as I said. I think this might be the sound chip. One of these, oh, that's the serial chip. This is probably ADB Apple desktop bus. There's a new bus arbitrator, which probably is that chip, which kind of handles the new bus. this and this is like the main chipset or whatever. And then these two chips down here, that's the ROM. All right, well, we'll just go right to the 33 megahertz chip because we know that that's what this computer needs. I'm just checking to make sure pins are in good shape, and they are. For installing this, there's pin 1, there's pin 1. So we just get this aligned, push this into the motherboard, like that. Easy peasy. Okay, now for the power supply, it's kind of annoying because it's meant to be in a case. What did I write here? Checked in January 21. New fan, new Y cap, no leaks. Okay. Anyways, this just kind of plugs in the motherboard. It doesn't plug in and clip in, just plugs in. There we go. It's in there, but the power supply is just sort of flopping around. So I need to kind of prop it up on something. So, well, I can't use the Bluesky because I need that. So how about we use the RGB to HDMI? Yeah, that works. I'll just carefully prop it just like that. Now, since this has built-in memory, I don't even need to install any memory modules into it, which is good. It's kind of helpful for testing. So that is the video, and we'll get the ADB hooked up like so. And now we just need power. So I'll carefully plug this into the power supply. I think I have that plugged in correctly, just like so. And yeah, that should be what I need to do to test this thing. So in case we get any kind of smoking, I'll keep the top-down camera on there. Okay, power to the power supply is applied, and I'll push the power button now. Well, turned on. There's no speaker hooked up, so we couldn't hear if it made the bong sound. Oh, I think I have a speaker that could work. Oops, I just knocked over a bunch of stuff. Oops. I don't know. I usually keep a speaker around with a 2-pin connector, which is what the Apple uses. Okay, we're not getting any video, so that's not a good sign. You cannot install the processor, by the way, incorrectly because it's keyed. But we are not getting any video. That is a problem. Pushing the power button did turn off the system. I really should hook a speaker up, I guess, shouldn't I? Okay, I found this little speaker, and it's got a 2-pin connector. It should work. Don't know where this came from. Probably a TV or something. Okay, I think it's on there. So I was hoping to hear the dong or bong, some sound. But we're not getting any signs of life, everyone. Nothing. Now, when it comes to caps, by the way, this thing has tantalums, and it did from the factory. So it doesn't have any issues with leaking caps. Speaker clicked, so it's working. But the reset button and the interrupt button don't do anything. I mean, suppose we could have a problem with the CPU. I'm pretty sure the CPU works. I'm feeling the chips, by the way, looking for anything hot. So far, nothing. Okay, I turned it off. Yeah, we got to click out of the speaker there. Let me see if there's anything hot underneath the power supply. No, all this stuff is fine. Okay, so I'm going to swap to a different CPU just in case there's not enough clearance to get my little lifter under there. So I'm going to have to use the old screwdriver trick. That doesn't even fit. Just a tiny bit of clearance. All I need to get this tool under there. Nope, not quite. Oh, there we go. I got it. Yeah, with this chip lifter, it's great. You can get these out nice and easily. The pin pitch on a 68040 is the same as a Intel 486. Now, this is a 20 megahertz CPU. I mean, I'm just going to try it just for grins. Oh, I can't. It's got bent pins. So we're not going to do that. Anyways, it's too slow anyhow. We'll try this one, which does not have bent pins. That says it's a 33 megahertz chip. Because I can't tell it's pin 1. There's the key up there. So that goes like so. Yeah, it just lines up with the pin 1 there. Okay, this other 33 megahertz chip is in there. No change. No change at all. Absolutely dead as a doornail. I know you might be thinking, well, maybe I do need RAM, but I guarantee you that I don't. I did some research ahead of time, and I kind of looked up this particular motherboard, and I saw people running it in systems that just had this exact setup. No video RAM, no additional RAM, just the onboard memory, and it was completely functional. Okay, if we take the CPU out, we Try turning this on with no CPU. Same thing. Just nothing. And in case you're wondering if I should try using the built-in test mode stuff that's on these Macs, there's no point because it's definitely not running any code. We need to hear a tone or have some activity coming out of this thing, and we're not. So I will reinstall this CPU. Why don't I put some deoxit in there? I mean, why not? Why not? This motherboard's in really good shape. Like, I don't see anything visually wrong with it. It's not scratched, it's not dented. There's a little bit of a scratch on the switch right here. So it might have been dropped actually. But it really looks to be in quite good shape. Okay, chip is in. It's a bit easier to push in with the deoxit. Yeah, that didn't do anything. Of course it didn't. I fully expected that not to work. Well, I'm gonna take the power supply off. We're gonna do a little bit of a close inspection. We just need to kind of see if there's anything obvious. I didn't really do that yet. There could be a scratch on the back or something like that. I was kind of anticipating this thing would just work, to be honest. But you never know what might be wrong with something. So see how there's a little bit of a dent on the corner there? So it feels like this has been dropped. But it's funny, nothing else looks like it's been molested at all. All the pins look good on that chip. I suppose what I should do is I should double check to make sure that this thing is not stuck in reset. Maybe when this switch got hit, it somehow is stuck in reset. Yeah, I'll check that in a second. Let's just look for any other damage. Everything seems fine. This chip here, new bus arbitrator, looks fine. No issues. CPU, like I said, I'm 99% sure, 99.9% sure that CPU works perfectly. Ethernet PHY, or whatever this is, looks good. Don't see any issues with that chip. SCSI controller, that looks fine. RAM DAC, I don't think the RAM DAC would necessarily keep it from running. Certainly if we have bad RAM, that could keep it from posting. Not necessarily the video RAM, but potentially the system RAM. Our system RAM, which I did feel, by the way, nothing was hot while it was powering up. Motherboard's never had any kind of battery leakage. It didn't have a battery when I found it. So there's a little bit of a scratch right there, but that's clearly nothing. Pretty rude. Looks like the SIM socket's been kind of mutilated a little bit. Also, is that a scratch down there on that trace? Let me spray some IPA on there. Oops, I just sprayed IPA all over the place. Yeah, it certainly looks like it's weirdly scratched right on that trace, but I don't think that's a break. I think that's okay. But definitely was scratched right there. That's odd. How would that happen? Like right down in there, it's like below the SIM socket. I guess I should look at these SIM sockets. These ones don't look messed up. Everything looks okay. And over here, same thing, not bent. I think these are fine. Nice Apple finally went to metal clips. What's that down there? I think that's just a little bit of dirt or something. Yeah, that's nothing. Okay. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem. I mean, it's weird it's exposed, but I don't think that's actually causing any issues. Okay, so the SIM sockets over here, they look fine. It's just over there is a little bent, weird. These sockets are good. This socket, I didn't really look into it, but it looks fine. Don't see any issues. And tons of very fine traces here. But everything seems fine. I should probably inspect the back side, because you know what? These have a lot of surface mount parts on the back. Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot of scratches on the back, isn't there? Interesting, interesting, interesting. Wow. The top looks so nice, and the bottom, what's happened here? Sometimes a little IPA kind of goes a long way. That looks broken. Yeah, that's gone. That's smashed off, that capacitor there. Generally, things like this, not a big deal. It's like bypass, so it's not bad that it's gone. I mean, it's, you know, not ideal. But if there's resistors that are missing that should be on here, that can definitely keep the system from working. What's there? Just a little bit of nothing there. Wow, I didn't even look at the back side of this. So far so good. I mean, other than that missing cap, so something definitely got smashed off. Yeah, this could be quite a bit of work of just very carefully looking at this board and trying to figure out exactly if anything has been damaged. But yeah, we could have just a tiny little scratch trace that's broken. I mean, there's a scratch right there, and that could keep the system from posting entirely. Do we see any other broken caps? Those look fine. This is all under the RAM, by the way. That's what these are doing here. Bypass for the memory. Another scratch right there, but I don't think that is going to cause a problem. It doesn't look like anything is broken with either of those two. It's kind of dirty, if anything. A lot of this is just dirtiness, so I should probably just give this thing a good clean. Because when I spray the IPA on it, suddenly it looks a lot nicer. Okay, that was just, the IPA hadn't quite made it there yet. Okay, let's see. Anything broken off over here? Looks fine. Not seeing anything. This all looks good. Don't think those were ever installed. You can kind of tell where there was something there that was broken off. That a nice little kind of bead of solder. So you could tell that was never actually installed. The wave soldering just put some solder there. This all looks fine. Oh, that looks bad. Where was that? Here? Oh no, it's fine. That was just dirty again. It was that weird stuff that's all over this board. Yeah, spraying the IPA kind of makes it much easier to see. But that resistor looked messed up, but it's fine. And over here we got lots of stuff. These are little resistor packs. That was never installed. I would imagine this section of the board, what is this? Audio, I guess, because the audio circuitry's there. And I bet people watching might see stuff that I don't, but I'm not really seeing any more issues. Another tantalum cap there. I see those little scratches here and there, but I certainly don't see any gouges that could result in completely non-functional system. But it's so funny because, you know, really could just take any tiny little thing. I mean, for all I know, even before this thing was rough handled and, you know, this stuff happened to it, these scratches and that cap that got bumped off, it could have also been messed up already. Like this could have failed in another way. Like that main chip could have died or something, one of those VLSI chips. It's just kind of hard to know. So those were never installed. So that's normal. Again, those were never installed, so that's fine. Okay, so all we really have that I've seen is this cap that's missing. There's a little bit of glue there underneath it. Let me poke around with the multimeter. Let's see if this is just on the 5-volt rail, if that's like some kind of a bypass. Okay, so this side of the cap actually is the ground side. So 0 ohms to ground, I'm touching one of the ports. And then the other side is, let's see here. Yeah, that's 0 ohms. This is definitely bypass. That is definitely a bypass cap. So if I go to the power supply connector, I'm just trying to find it on the bottom side. Here it is. Yeah, I have 0 ohms to one of the power supply connections that's not ground. So there's no way that that cap being broken would actually cause this not to work. I just don't see that. It's just a bypass cap. That's all it is. And that's just one of those, you know, fancy chips under there, VLSI chips. And it looks like that trace there goes to a via. I wonder if it's broken. I just used the loop to look at that, and it definitely is not broken. It looks totally fine. I'm just gonna Dremel away a little bit here just to get some of the glue off of it. Yeah, that trace is fine. I mean, it's not broken at all. Obviously, we're missing that cap, but like I said, that's not going to cause the system not to work. It just will not. You know, because there's obviously some amount of damage on the back of this that we probably have a ripped trace or a torn or gouged trace that's broken somewhere else on this board. And I just haven't seen it. I think I'm going to have to take this upstairs and really scrub and clean the backside, because this is not easy to see through all this gunk that's on here. Not at all. And this is a big board. So really kind of looking at every square inch of this is not easy. And of course, it's not like we have schematics. We don't, you know, there's no real way to troubleshoot this other than just kind of looking for broken traces like this. I've been working on this motherboard for quite a while. I did end up washing it. I cleaned the bottom so I could really inspect. Unfortunately, a lot of those weird white marks is flux residue, I guess, from the wave soldering. I replaced that bypass cap that was around this chip. Of course, that made no difference whatsoever. And just because I knew people would ask, they were like, oh, you need to have a battery for the system to work. Well, I'm feeding 3.6 volts into the battery from my bench power supply. And that made no difference whatsoever. It just still comes on and clicks. I even added RAM to the motherboard, although that's not necessary. But I did add 72-pin memory, fast page memory, no change. And I even went the extra mile and broke out my not so good microscope, and I took a close look at the legs on all of these ICs, and I couldn't see any that were bad. I basically poked at them while using the microscope to see if any moved, and none moved. So this motherboard doesn't really have anything obviously wrong with it, and I don't know where to go from here to get this fixed. It's not like there's any schematics or anything for this. These late Apple boards with highly integrated chips here, they never release schematics for these. And if the machine was trying to boot, but at least gave us like the sad Mac tone, then I knew I could connect to the serial port and look at the diagnostics that are running inside the ROMs. But this thing is just not showing any signs of life. So my assumption is here is either we have bad ROMs or something is killing the data bus to keep the CPU from even executing any code at all. Of course, when you have these super integrated chips here that are handling everything on the board, right? Like the reset and the clock and just pretty much everything. Without schematics, it would be very difficult to do any further troubleshooting. So I think I'm going to cut my losses with this board. And while I was digging around, while I was washing this and drying it, I noticed that I had another NuBus video card sitting off to the side. This one just says made in USA. Oh, it says RasterOps on it. But I don't know what kind of RasterOps card this is. So I think we're going to use the Mac IIci to test that card as well. And then I'm going to try to see this CPU. I'm going to try to take this off. Well, I'll take this off here and I'll put it on to the accelerator that's in the IIci, because I want to see if this one has a math coprocessor inside of it. Kind of annoyed at myself. I obviously ran this at some point because I wrote the parameters on the side, right, how fast it was. Why didn't I write if it was the full version or not? I don't know. So I'll be setting this board aside. If anyone has any ideas of what might be wrong with this, please let me know. But yeah, I replaced that capacitor and that made no difference. And I also gave it a nice full inspection on the bottom side for any other parts that were broken or any other broken traces. And I could see nothing. I could see nothing at all. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses. And since this is a bare board that doesn't go with any machine, there's even less incentive for me to try to fix this one. I have plenty of other things that are broken and they go actually with computers, so I'd be better off trying to fix those. Wow, this thing is stuck in there big time. It is coming out using this lifter tool, although the tool is bending. Yeah, these tools aren't the best. Now, what I don't know about these accelerator cards is, can I overclock it? There's a 16 megahertz crystal there, so it must use clock doubling as well. Looks like I must have changed this at some point. There's a little black mark on there that must indicate pin 1. Yeah, okay, so it's keyed, so you can't put it in the wrong way. Oh my. Yeah, trying to get that in there, it's not easy, and I'm trying not to push down on the fan itself. Wow. Might have to push down the fan. Oh. I don't know how to get this chip in there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay. Incidentally, this thing is a Mobius Technologies, 128K cache, 2 copyright, something or other. I think the accelerator is made by them as well, even though I'm using the Carrera 2 drivers for this, it seems to be the same thing. There are some jumpers on there. Oh, I see. There's jumpers for the regular 040, the LC, and the EC. Well, I wonder what this is. I should maybe change that jumper. And I mean, maybe this was the full version. I don't even know. There we go. On the back, by the way, Mobius Technology Speedster from 1993. This was the one that came inside of that machine when I got it. I think this jumper, by the way, J3, I think has to do with whether the cache module is installed or not. I'm kind of tempted as well to remove this and see if I could find a faster one. Try to overclock this thing. Can I run this at 40 megahertz? Probably with the fan on there, you could. Okay, we got the 2CI back out again. So I gotta reinstall its original power supply. So I'm gonna switch the jumper on this accelerator from the LC position to the full version, and we'll see what that does, if anything. Maybe it won't work and it will crash, I don't know. Okay, with the accelerator in, the video card's out. Just plug this in and turn it on. Before I forget, I'm gonna write what's going wrong with this motherboard here, just so I don't forget at some point in the future. I'm gonna say no post. I know that's a PC term, but I don't know, what else to say. It's just black screen. Okay, system is booting. Excellent. Let's see if this math coprocessor actually works. It is entirely possible that the other processor that was in here has a math coprocessor as well, and I just had that jumper set incorrectly. Honestly, I don't quite remember. Okay, well, I just want to see if the math coprocessor works. Let's try speedometer, because I think this has some FPU tests. Okay, computer, Macintosh, native CPU, 68030, nominal CPU, 68040, internal FPU, internal MMU. So it does appear that this chip here has both. And we have an FPU benchmark test here. Right, tests are done. Okay, you know what's kind of cool actually is this is comparing the results to a Quadra 650, and a Quadra 650 has the FPU built into the chip. So this machine is running, not quite as fast, 0.94% as fast as the Quadra 650. So that definitely kind of tells us that this CPU here, which isn't even that hot, really, it's not that hot, does have the FPU inside of it. Let's do a quick test of the rest of the metrics on this thing, CPU and graphics and stuff, and it will also compare it to the Quadra 650. Okay, so it's actually outperforming the Quadra 650 to 1.127, and graphics is also outperforming it, and we'll see about disk. Disk is probably going to be slower because it's, not a real hard drive. Anyways, okay, well, it definitely seems like the FPU on this chip is working, but that begs the question, does it work on this chip? And I need to just go back to that one. Yeah, which I've kind of dented the socket a little bit here, trying to get that out. I should go back to the other one, and then I can see if the FPU works, because obviously that jumper was set incorrectly. Actually, you know what I'm going to do first? Is I'm going to put in this this mystery card here, whatever this is. Oh, it's a RasterOps card, by the way. It has their logo on it. And we're gonna see if this card works. There's no way this is accelerated, by the way, this card. This looks like kind of a crappy low-end card. It's really funny to think, with those two other cards, I could put both cards in here, take this Ethernet card out, and I could have 4 monitors on this computer. I mean, that's kind of cool, isn't it? It really is. None of them would be especially high performance. I mean, maybe the one card from eMachines has acceleration if those drivers do work. Uh-oh. RasterOps ClearVue XL, and everything is a cyan. Is this a monochrome card? Oh, this might be a monochrome card, like for a large format monitor. And the reason why it's looking like this is because it's not outputting RGB. I don't know, we'll find out shortly. At least the capture device is working with it. So anyways, I was thinking that this card we're looking at here is actually a monochrome card. So it doesn't even support any color. Looks like it has a RAM DAC on it, although I can't quite tell. So it might only support monochrome. Yeah, it's black and white, but it's high resolution. 1024 by 768 maybe? Yes. How interesting. So basically it's designed for one of those like 2-page monochrome displays. And it just happens that the Extron works. That's just showing it as this weird cyan color, I guess, for some reason. Anyways, we can run Tattletech on here and get the exact specific information about this card off of it. RasterOps ClearVue XL. Revision 1.0, board ID 447. It's actually possible that this supports even higher resolution than what we're looking at. It's just that you might need like a little adapter or something to go to the right pinout on the back. Anyhow, let's go double check about this CPU situation. I want to make sure the FPU is actually there. Okay, FPU built in, hardware FPU, yes, MMU built in. So this CPU seems like a full-featured 68040, not one of the LC or even worse, EC versions. EC ones are the worst because those are just no MMU or FPU. I'm not sure I've ever actually seen one of those in a normal package because I think they're pretty much designed for embedded systems. Let's try math benchmarks with Snooper here, floating point. This is what didn't work before. All right, saying it's 400 times faster than the 2CI. How about the Quadra 700, because that's a 68040 native machine. 100% speed of one of those. Okay, and it doesn't have the Quadra 650. I don't know what the 950 is. I guess it's the same speed as the 700. It's hard to tell with Apple stuff, like the numbers are all over the place. These all seem the same speed. Okay, well, anyways, it's working. So we'll write on here what this is, ClearVue XL. And I do want to write that this is monochrome, just so I remember. Terrible writing, but I get the picture. Well, I think I need to put the CPU that was on this card back in here, because I really need to know, was that the full version and the jumper was set wrong? And when I take this off, I will mark it appropriately. So 68040 with FPU. You know, I actually don't know if it's a 33 or if it's a 40 or 25 and I'm just overclocking it. This looks like it's glued down. I didn't want to peel that heatsink off, but I do know for sure it has the FPU. So that is something. Should I spend a moment to socket this little 16 megahertz crystal? I think I should. We need to see if this thing can be pushed, because I don't have a lot of crystal oscillators in that square footprint, but I have some. There's one that's 22 megahertz. That's clearly not going to work. That's too fast. I'm thinking something like 18 might do the trick. I have a bunch of 22s that are square. And there's a 35. That's not going to work. That's way too fast. This is 3.57, so that's too slow. Ah, here's a 20 megahertz. That's perfect. 20 megahertz is essentially making it 40 megahertz, which is probably the fastest this thing can even go. And I think that a 33 megahertz chip should be able to run at, should actually be able to run at 40. Okay, well, let's get that crystal oscillator out. That's where it goes. And I'll put a socket in. Okay, so that came out relatively easily. Just by the way, pin 1 is towards the U8. Oh, well, it's loose, but yet somehow not out. Weird. There we go. Okay, yeah, I can tell that's pin 1. It's square. The hole is square, plus it has a square corner. I'm going to prepare a socket, so I just need to pull out those middle pins from this 8-pin socket. Okay, there's my little melted socket installed into the board. Let's put the original one back in, 16 megahertz. Just want to make sure that everything works properly on this board now that I've sort of modified it. The legs are very, very short. They were obviously trimmed on the one that was in there, but it still goes in there and it's in there pretty firmly. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back to the CPU that was in there. I just want to make sure I put some deoxit in the socket first. The thing about deoxit is it's actually a bit of a lubricant. So in these very tight sockets like this, it just makes it easier to get the chip out. So if I have to end up taking the chip out specifically because this one doesn't have a FPU, then it's easier when the deoxit's in there. I am going to dab it with some paper towel though, since it's very, very wet. That is in there properly. So is the clock. And then this is the one I will test for overclocking. 20 megahertz. Okay, we're ready to go. Everything is plugged in. Let's turn this on. Still boots, that's good. Of course, it's not using that until that that extension loads at startup. Now we're doing two things here, right? First, I'm testing to make sure that this processor actually has an FPU inside. And the other thing we're going to do is if it does, we'll keep it. And then I'm going to pop in this crystal here, which should overclock to 40 megahertz potentially. Okay, it hung. I think this processor doesn't have the math coprocessor, and that's why it's freezing. We can figure that out by switching this back to the LC position. And once we do that, if this thing then boots, then we know that that's the problem. Otherwise, I broke the accelerator by socketing the crystal oscillator, which that doesn't quite make sense. Okay, don't crash. Oh no. Oh no, it's still booting. Okay, did I give it enough time last time? Because I thought it froze, but I just looked down at the hard drive LED and it was still blinking. You can't see that, it's off camera. So system is working, great. And it may overclock, so that's possible. Let me just see what this square crystal is right here. Oh, another 20 megahertz. Okay, so I have two of those. Yeah, I was hoping for like an 18 megahertz because that'd be a slight overclock. Okay, well, let's get out of here. Let's reboot or shut down, and I'm going to switch that jumper back to full and just give it more time. I was very impatient there. Okay, it's back on the full position. I want to make sure that the processor is good to go, obviously, with the math or the FPU first. Now, whether I really need an FPU in this machine, that's a good question. I probably don't really need the FPU, and I just need whichever CPU is more stable running at the faster clock speed. Okay, so we're set to full FPU mode, and let's see if it freezes, which I thought it did last time, because I didn't give it enough time. Okay, it's frozen. The light is not blinking on the SCSI emulator anymore. Okay, well that tells us that processor right here is actually just an LC variant as well. And I don't think that would have been what's on here originally. I must have stolen the CPU and put it somewhere else. So I'm going to swap this out, and we're going to see if this chip can actually run at 40 megahertz. It might be overclocking right now for all we know. Let's find out. For all I know, it's a 25 megahertz chip in there, and I'm overclocking it as it is running at 33. But we're going to have to switch back to the LC version without the math coprocessor, since that appears to be what this chip is. Okay, so 40 megahertz, 68040 LC. And I'm going to write on this side of the heatsink right now LC, just so I don't forget. No FPU. Okay, system is booting. Now, of course, this might not work at all at that speed, and we'll know shortly when it tries to load the extension. Still booting, everyone. It is still freaking booting. I know it doesn't look like it, but the hard drive LED is blinking. Look at that. We are potentially running at 40 megahertz. We'll know shortly because I did run those benchmarks, right? So we'll be able to compare the results to what we had before. Oh, yes. I never even thought to try this. Maybe the FPU-less chips overclock better because they don't have the FPUs wasting space in there. Wonder why Snooper doesn't have an icon. Guess it from all my crashing and rebooting. Let's do some benchmarks, everyone. Memory benchmark. Okay, let's run CPU benchmark, since that's the one I had from before. CPU was 8.9. Oh, and we're at 7.1 now. Heck yes! That is so cool. So this is freaking works. This works. It's overclocked to 7.1. Okay, math integer. Let's see. Okay, we can compare this to the Quadra 700. So it's 166% faster than that machine. Not freaking bad. Oops, Mac Classic 2. Okay, well, yeah, it's way faster than that. How about the Mac 2 FX? You know, fastest Mac ever. It's 236% faster than that. Okay, let's do a math benchmark. We'll have to do the integer one. Okay. I got math int was 833 before, and now it's 937. So that is a nice freaking improvement. And the other one was 1875 optimized, which is oddly exactly the same. as what it was before. Okay, I can run floating point, I think. Yeah, without FPU. Okay, so we got a 40.3 before, and now we're at 50.0. So this thing is totally running overclocked. Yes. I didn't think, yeah, I didn't run functions. Okay, video benchmarks I did run, and we were getting 13.5 before. Let's see what we get now. Of course, we're on the internal video, which I know is faster than any of those cards we've used today. Okay, yep, we went down to 12.9. 12.9. Well, I'll be this chip, which isn't even, it's not even warm. You know why it's not warm? Because the fan for the power supply blows out, but it's sucking so much air in through the front of the power supply that there's a nice airflow right here, and I feel it moving right over the heatsink. So this heatsink's not even warm. Should we go faster? Should we go faster? I have that 22 megahertz crystal in here. I just didn't think it would actually work. And you know what? I might be sticking with this FPU-less chip because I don't really care. And to be honest, if this overclocks better than the other one, then great. And I mean, this heatsink works really well in this computer as well. So we'll shut this down. I probably need to figure out how to do some kind of a long-term benchmark that could run for an hour or something like that, just to make sure that this thing is not crashing. Okay, 22.22222 megahertz. That means this thing's, oh, these pins are very bent. This thing is going to run at a whopping 44 megahertz. I mean, that seems greedy. That seems very greedy. I don't see how that's going to work. You know what I realized as well? When I make these mods to this computer, or any of my computers, I should just leave a note inside to say, hey, I just did whatever. Keep note. Like I just added a crystal oscillator and overclocked. Oh, the pin fell out. I overclocked this accelerator. So, you know, in the future when I go to look at it, and I'm like, what did I do? What was I doing? I'll know exactly what I did. 22.222 megahertz. So we're going to be 44.44 megahertz. Extremely greedy, if you ask me. Now, the good thing about overclocking this machine with this accelerator, unlike the Quadra 650, if you overclock that thing, if that thing worked, is it speeds up the whole motherboard, and that improves your video performance on the main board, but it also causes stuff like the serial ports not to work, and there's some mods you have to do. So in a way, it's nice to accelerate with a card like this because it doesn't affect the motherboard at all, meaning like the serial ports and the sound and stuff is still going to work. My assumption is anytime this card talks to the motherboard, it actually slows down to run at 25 megahertz. But anytime this thing is executing code inside of its caches, it's running at the full speed. So that you're never going to get the full performance of a machine that, you know, natively is running at this speed because the RAM is faster and everything else is faster as well. But the 128K of cache really helps with this exact scenario. Here's the big question: is it going to crash or is it going to work? It's always a bit of a pause here, and you always get a bit nervous. It did not crash, everyone. It did not crash. How is this possible? 44.4? This is so greedy. We're so greedy with the speed. I can't even believe it. Talk about leaving performance on the table. Of course, maybe it's not stable. Oh, like, did it just crash? Well, the mouse pointer still works, but the hard drive's not going anymore. So yeah, okay. I spoke too soon. I was greedy to the point where, yeah, it's obviously crashed. Let's see here. Okay, so that's working. Interesting. So interrupt works, but the OS is not working. We'll try one more time. But I figured I was being greedy by trying to go to 22.2 or 44.4444 megahertz. That just seems beyond the realm of what could be possible. I have a feeling they probably sold a version of this accelerator that ran at 40 megahertz, but Motorola never released a 50 megahertz 68040. And probably, well, it said on Wikipedia they didn't because it got too hot. Now, as for whether anyone ever released an accelerator that was kind of pushing the limits by overclocking, maybe, I don't know. But it seems that this card, while it seems to work fine at 40, yeah, well, let's see what happens this time. But obviously, I was being very greedy, and it was too much for it. I mean, this computer is never unstable. So the fact that it kind of crashed there, I mean, it didn't crash right there, but I don't feel confident that this is going to be a reliable computer at this speed, but I guess we'll check the benchmarks. I'm probably going to go back to 40 just for stability's sake. Everything's working so far. CPU benchmarks. So remember, CPU, I got 8.9, then it got 7.1 when I overclocked. And now, what are we going to get? We are getting a 6.6. So it's quite a lot faster. Almost 500% faster than the original 2CI. I mean, what? That is bonkers. Okay, let's try this stuff. I'm not even going to write this down. So our score for math was 833.3, then it went to 937.5, and now it's 1071. Oddly enough, the optimized was 1875 both times before, 40 and 33, and now it's 2500. And let's run floating point. That is 55.5, and we were at 40.3, then 50.0, and now 55.5. And let's see, video benchmark was the next one. And of course, this is only sped up because the CPU is doing a lot of the heavy work, but it still has to slow down to talk to the RAM buffer on the motherboard. But it still seems to, make a difference. Like it's able to push pixels even faster. I guess there's just less time going to the RAM, and I don't know, whatever's happening, during the quick draw routines. 12.1. Okay, so we were at 13.5, then 12.9, and now we're at 12.1. So it's only 226% faster than a 2CI, while the math test or CPU test was like 400 something percent. So obviously we're slowing down quite a bit to access the video. Let's try memory. I didn't run this at all. The memory moving speed was worse than a 2CI. Quadra 700 comparison, 44%. So RAM speed kind of sucks. Is the CPU hot? No. Yeah, the CPU is warm, but it's not burning hot by any sense of the imagination. I mean, it's just warm. I didn't run this before, but let's see about speedometer. I think speedometer is on here somewhere. Maybe it's under applications. Okay, so we can run this performance test here. It's going to do the disk test. I mean, we did run this before. I don't remember what were the circumstances. I mean, that's fast. That's really fast. Oh yeah, we were comparing this to the Quadra 605, weren't we, a little while ago? I didn't run this like before I did any overclocking, I don't think. Yeah, that's right. We ran this a little bit earlier. I didn't write down any results though, so I'm assuming it's faster than it was. CPU is 1.535, and at 1.0 would be a Quadra 605. I said 650 before, didn't I? I guess I was misspeaking there. Quadra 605, I don't even know how fast that thing is. Yeah, I ran the FPU benchmarks when we had the FPU. This does have some more tests, and this is good because I can let this kind of run for a while, it's kind of a stress test. Why did this thing freeze that one time it booted? I mean, it sort of froze. It didn't. I mean, the mouse pointer was still moving. It wasn't like a hard lock. Not trustworthy, but maybe I just need to kind of let this thing run. I'll put the lid back on and I'll load up a game and just let the game kind of sit there. But I thought I'd be greedy here with this 44.4, and it's freaking working. I mean, this is amazing. Absolutely freaking amazing. Okay, so yeah, this is what this does. It kind of sits here and does these types of tests, which are a little bit more intensive. And we're kind of blowing away the performance of that Quadra 605, which equals to 1.0. Tests are done. It did not crash. Right, so I think what I really need to do, like I said, is I just need to let this sit here and run a game demo or something. And that way it really kind of stress tests it. And I think I have Crystal Crazy right there. I can run that. So let's close out all these windows. And I'm going to put the lid on this computer so that it kind of heat soaks a little bit. Crystal Crazy, by the way, this is like a successor to Crystal Quest. And someone told me about this, and I tried it. It's quite fun, I gotta say. I barely played it, so I really need to give it some more. I need to play it some more. Collect the crystals. It's like, I've showed Crystal Quest before. Sorry about the sound. It's quite loud. Maybe I can turn it down. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, pushing the number keys like 1 through 9 turns it down. So you got to pick up these crystals. can shoot these guys. And my mouse is moving kind of sluggishly. Oh, you know what the problem is too? I'm playing through OBS. Anytime I play through OBS, it's hard. So once you get all these, you go through the door on the bottom. But this version of the game, unlike Crystal Quest, it gets crazy. Hence the name. I can't remember what I'm supposed to do here. Can I hit those? Yep. Okay. So what do you do with these? Smash those into people? Okay, I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to do here. Oh, I think I'm supposed to hit these really hard. That's what it is. And that lets me, oh, I was gonna say that lets me finish the level. There we go. Erase the pictures. I guess I could have I could have read what it told me to do. Oh, you know, it's funny. This feels kind of sluggish, to be honest, of all things. I think this game is really designed to run on PowerPC Max, and while it works fine on, you know, oh boy, here we go. This is a bonus round. Okay, there we go. While it runs fine on the 68, you know, 1000 Max like this, it's certainly sluggish. Pick up the crystals. The mouse movement isn't working exactly like I would expect it to. It's feeling a little sluggish, but I think this mouse is not helping the situation. I love this. I love this. I never knew about this game. Oh no. Okay. I think this probably can run in a demo mode, and that's what I'm going to let this thing do for a while. And then we'll see if this computer crashes in my greedy overclock. CPU, not too hot. Awesome. Put the lid on. And then I'll let it sit there and just sort of bake. Well, would you believe, it's been a few days actually, this machine is rock solid. I'm not sure why it had that issue starting at one time, running at 44.444 megahertz, but ever since it has been absolutely perfect, which frankly kind of blows my mind. Now, I did a little Googling, and it's a bit confusing because this card says Mobius Technologies on it, but when you do Google for this card, you find that Carrera 040 card, which looks exactly the same. So I feel in a way this card was rebranded and sold as the Carrera later in its life. In fact, the prices were really reasonable when that card was being sold. The web pages that you can find if you do quick Google are all old web pages. It's not like you can still buy those cards anymore. I mean, if you could, that would be a pretty good price. Now, the funny thing is they did sell a variant of this that ran at 40 megahertz. So it kind of tells you that the card itself is capable of running at 40 megahertz. And they probably equipped it with a 40 megahertz 68040, which Motorola did actually manufacture and sell. I also did some Googling, and I found that they had a 50 megahertz variant as well. And I know Motorola never made a 50 megahertz 68040, so they must be using a 40 megahertz or even a 33 megahertz and are overclocking it. But it kind of tells you that the card itself, I guess, is capable of running that fast. Now, it has a different part number on the website, so maybe some of the chips they used on the card are faster variants, like the SRAM on the cache module, stuff like that. Incidentally, they did sell that cache module separately. And I had a question as to whether there was an extra jumper on there, J3, that was next to the CPU selection jumper. If that jumper had somehow something to do with, the Mac is making funny noises, it must be a screensaver. If it had something to do with the cache being enabled or disabled. But I took that jumper off because it was set on this card and actually prevented the system from even booting up. The card was installed and the jumper was removed. The Mac IIci wouldn't even post. It would just give this kind of pinkish screen, no sound, no nothing. Putting the jumper back on, computer works fine. So I couldn't find any information Googling whether that jumper has anything to do with the cache module or not, but on the webpage for the Carrera 040 version of this card, that jumper, the pins aren't installed, and actually has a jumper link that goes between it on the board. So it's permanently installed with the jumper set. And those do support having the cache module installed on them. So it's my assumption that jumper has some other function, and maybe just plugging the cache module onto the card, which was an optional extra on the Carrera website, is all you need to do to actually enable it. Now, I looked through my little bin of crystal oscillators to look to see if I could find a 25 megahertz crystal to maybe see if I could overclock this thing to 50 megahertz. I mean, it's possible, but I couldn't find one. The fastest I had in there, well, I had a 28 megahertz one, but that would obviously be more than 50 megahertz, 56 megahertz or whatever that is. So that would be clearly pushing my luck. I mean, I'm already greedy enough running this chip overclocked already to 44.4 megahertz. So I figured that would be too much, but a 25 megahertz might be interesting just to try. If anyone has any experience overclocking these 68040, the LC variant that's in here, are they good at overclocking? I know I have another Mac that I've overclocked. It's what is that, Centris 610, I think, and it's got a 68040, and I know I overclocked that one as well. I did it on the motherboard. I don't remember how fast I was able to get that machine to run, but certainly it's not running as fast as this computer is at the 44 megahertz. Now, one thing I wanted to show is, let's look up Tattletale, or Tattletech that is, and let's see if we actually have the megahertz reading in here. Because remember, we did see it in here, I think when we went under CPUs. CPU speed 29.64 megahertz? That doesn't really make sense. And the reason why I say that is because if somehow this was running at 29 megahertz, the machine would be a lot slower than it was when it was running at 33. And this did detect it at like 32 or so when I had the original crystal in there, the 16 megahertz crystal. So my assumption is this thing just doesn't have a good detection routine, or maybe it's getting confused because the bus speed of this thing is 25 megahertz, which it does detect correctly. But then, yeah, the accelerator does some strange stuff. Now, as an aside, I did run speedometer 4.02 again. I did this off camera. In the current configuration, I ran through all the tests and then I saved it to the database. So if we go and do a system comparison, we can actually compare this to all the other Macintoshes that exist. It's this one here, 44.4 megahertz. And it's definitely running faster than it was when I had the original crystal in this machine. Now here's a Centris 610, which I think is the other machine that I modified. I'm pretty sure this has a 68040 in it. I wish you could see that. Doesn't really say. System 7.1, obviously we have a newer version of the system, which might make it slower. Either way, you can see that this thing is much faster. So the bigger these numbers, the better the performance, and we are completely blowing the pants off the Centris 610 in its stock configuration. If we look at the Quadra 650, which would have been the 33 megahertz version of the motherboard we looked at earlier in this video with a full FPU-based system, most of these tests are also faster on this machine now, so we know we're running more than 33 megahertz just because these performance metrics are higher. The only thing that's not is FPU speed or math speed, and that's because the Centris or Quadra 650 would have had a full FPU 68040 on it running at 33 megahertz. And whetstones, K-whetstones does take into account the floating point unit, which is why that metric is so much higher on the Quadra. But everything else is faster on this. Dry stones 1.75 versus 1.36 and so on and so forth. You can see that this machine is faster in pretty much everything except disk speed, which we know because the floppy emulator or the SCSI emulator in here is really old and it's just not that performant compared to newer solutions or a real hard drive. And the video speed on this machine is faster in all but 8-bit mode. 8-bit mode, which is 256 colors, is slower, and we know that's because it's hamstrung by the 25 megahertz bus speed on this machine that the Quadra doesn't have to deal with because it's running the video subsystem at 33 megahertz. Hence that performance increased 0.76 all the way up to 1.07. And I actually don't think Apple ever released any Macintoshes with 68000s that were faster than 33 megahertz. I think that was the fastest. Like we take a look at the Quadra 950, 1.34, so the 1.32 was on the last machine, so we could tell that's pretty much the same. So this machine is faster than that. Quadra 840 AV, that was a very expensive machine. Oh, that ran at 40 megahertz, I guess. Does it say in the little thing here? No, it doesn't say, but that is a System 7.12 or 10, which honestly could be faster because the system you're running does slow down the system, or the overall system, and some of the benchmarks as well. I'm just quickly going to Wikipedia just to take a look at what speed this machine ran at. Yes, okay, so this was running at 40 megahertz, the 840AV. So this is the fastest 68,000 base Mac that Apple probably ever released, one that wasn't accelerated. And let's look at the CPU metrics on this machine versus that. Yeah, look at this, dry stones, 1.75 versus 1.76. 1.82 on towers, 1.63, so slightly faster on this machine than the 840AV in some scenarios. But I think the dry stones is being affected by the fact that the memory speed on this machine is so slow, 25 megahertz versus 40 megahertz on the 840AV. So certain tests, it's still going to win over this, but definitely CPU speed is better on this. And that must be just because well, maybe because it has all that cache memory, and also it's running at 44 megahertz versus 40. Civ is actually slower than on the Quadra. Maybe that uses the math, or maybe that the bus speed, the RAM speed makes more of an impact on that. But all these other things look faster than on that machine. Even the black and white video speed is faster on the 2CI with the accelerator than it is on that Quadra, but obviously all the rest of these are significantly slower. So really, color me surprised that I was just sitting on performance that I wasn't taking advantage of with this machine. All I had to do was just socket that crystal oscillator and bump this thing up to 44.4 megahertz, and now it's pretty much as fast as one of the fastest machines that Apple ever made. That was a 68,000 base computer, caveat of course, because once you went to the PowerPC stuff, those had incredible math performance compared to the Motorola chips. Not to mention, well, I think early on, if they were doing emulation mode, they were a lot slower than this machine. This machine would be faster than those in emulation mode, but natively compiled programs with PowerPC architecture, and especially things that use math, obviously those would, blow away the performance of this machine. All right, well, with that, I think that's going to be the end of this video. So unfortunately, I could not get this thing working. If you have any thoughts as to what might be wrong with it, please let me know in the comment section below. Obviously, like I said earlier, I don't have even a machine to put this into. So even if this did work, it's not like I could upgrade my 2CI with it. And doing some reading on this Wombat motherboard, you can overclock this by changing out the crystal oscillator. Remember, this runs at 33, so you could potentially run this at 40, but when you do so, it breaks the serial ports. And someone talked about a mod that they did somehow, but they didn't explain what they did. They used a PAL chip. So who knows how that actually worked, but that would make this thing potentially faster than this. Although we know this lacks cache memory, and unless there was a cache module you could plug into this, this would probably still underperform what this 2CI can do, at least in CPU intensive tasks, although the graphics subsystem on this would certainly be faster, plus it's got Ethernet. Not that I don't have an Ethernet card on the 2CI anyways, and you can have more RAM on here, but 68 megabytes on the 2CI is way more RAM than any one person ever needs. And then we have these three video cards, the eMachines card, we have the Radius, and the RasterOps card. So it's funny that this one here, this gold card, is the one that is monochrome only. I did a little bit of Googling for this, and yes, it supports relatively high resolutions, like for 21-inch monochrome monitors. It doesn't even support grayscale, it's just purely 1 bit. But it does support some like 11 something by 800 something resolution. It also supports full page single display monitors, and I actually do have one of those monitors. A Radius full page display monochrome monitor. It's in my storage unit. That'll be something to investigate one day. Possibly it would work well with this card, although I'm quite sure on the Macintosh IIci, the built-in video actually supports that form factor as well. The resolution is like 640 by 864 lines, something like that. It's an odd full page display resolution. And it's, well, I think if I hook it up to this, it's actually grayscale. It can do more than just monochrome like that card can. And we know this eMachines card with the correct driver can actually give me accelerated video. So if anyone has any leads on the actual good driver for this, then please let me know. I suppose the problem is, it's not that much of a problem. I typically run this machine with System 7.1, and that one note we saw on that one webpage said that the driver for this does work accelerated with that system, but nothing beyond that. So System 753, which I'm running here for these tests, I can't run this card, or I guess if I did, I couldn't use the driver, and I would just run it as like a dumb display. So this actually might be a good card to use if the acceleration does work, because then I can run this Mac in 24-bit mode, and that would be kind of cool because you'd be able to look at web pages and render JPEGs and stuff like that with a nice high color display. So if anyone has leads, like I said, into finding the drivers for this, then please let me know. And then lastly, we have this card here. What was this one called again? The PrecisionColor 8xi. So I don't think this thing's accelerated. And of course, I don't think this thing's any better than the display that's on here, other than the fact that it might be able to display higher resolution, it probably can, than just 640 by 480. So that's the one benefit of that card versus the stock video, but it's much slower. So therefore I wouldn't want to use this for the primary display if I'm using the 2CI, just because it's worse than that. This is the card to have. And I do probably, I know I have more NuBus Apple video cards stashed away. I need to go grab them, and maybe I'll make a follow-up video where I test those as well, just to see if they, will at least work in the stock configuration without the drivers. And then now that I know the correct methodology for finding the actual model number of this one's the Futura SX with that Tattletech program, then potentially I can find the drivers for those as well and just try to get my video card situation for Macintoshes in order so I can actually use one. I'd really like to have one that's accelerated. So that is going to be it for this video. Sorry, it was all over the place. I kind of sit down with an idea of what I'm going to work on, which was really just that motherboard. And then it just sort of spiraled out of control from there. And in the end, this was an exploration of my 2CI and an overclock of the accelerator card, which is in here, which I have to admit, I'm very, very happy about. So the motherboard not working, the whatever, the 2CI being much faster, that is awesome. Plus now knowing I have an accelerated video card, potentially, that is awesome as well. So if you like this kind of casual, chaotic video, then thumbs up would be appreciated. But if you don't, you know exactly what to do. Huge thanks to my supporters. Never go up the side of the screen. Reminder, I'm going to be at VCF in Seattle coming up in May. I'm also going to be at VCF Southwest, that's in Dallas, also in May. And I'm going to be at VCF Midwest in Chicago. I think that's in September. I'll put the dates on screen here. So just know that I will be at those shows. And those are the only shows I plan to be at this year, at least, scheduled things. Maybe some stuff in the Pacific Northwest. Yes, maybe, but otherwise, I don't plan on being at any other shows in 2026. And that is going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.